Okay, third time is a charm. So I screwed up the first two, but hopefully this one's good. So I just wanted to mention two things. So today's subject is going to be about death. Okay, so that's actually a good thing. Death is awesome if we look at it from the standpoint of a Christian, especially a Catholic, right? Because we have the fullness of the faith, right? We have all these sacraments, all these ways of just obtaining unbelievable amounts of grace, right? So we really shouldn't fear death. I was reading not too long ago, there was a priest who told a saint who actually would have visions of purgatory and stuff. He said, I would be willing to suffer the amount of years that for every grain of sand that's in this jar that he was pointing to. I'd be willing to suffer that amount of years in purgatory to just know that I would have salvation. And she rebuked him. She said, first of all, you have no idea what purgatory is like. The second thing is that trust in God, have mercy in God, or like trust in God's mercy. If you're following a Catholic life, if you're living life as a Catholic and you're receiving the sacraments regularly, you're going to confession regularly, you're saying your rosary, and that's it, then we don't have to worry. Like it's so easy. It's so easy. And we can just be assured in a very strong degree of our salvation. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a pardon crucifix. So this is actually, we're going to be selling these for NCYC. So this is what it looks like on the back. It's got a prayer and it's super amazing. I don't know about you, but I used to carry around chain rosaries and they're the absolute, not that they're the worst, but I almost always take it out of my pocket and then I'd take my pocket with it and then a piece would fall off or the whole thing would break and then I would have to like use my teeth or whatever. I hated that. But now if you have a paracord rosary, I guess they use this to make parachutes, so you have to worry about breaking it. It will not. This will last you. You'll lose it before you break it. And the really cool thing is, actually, no, you can't break it because look, it's actually there's no chains. It's just except for this one here. So anyways, extremely good. You go online, you try and find a pardon crucifix, or you try and find a paracord rosary. Online, it is anywhere from $40 to $60. At St. Mary's, it is $20. So make sure you get your discount and come to the back of the church. Hopefully we have them by Memorial Day weekend, but regardless, we'll have them back there. So the best rosaries in the universe. Okay, so make sure you get it. The second thing is, so I mentioned this, is called the pardon crucifix. So it was made during World War I. And it was actually interesting, the United States issued for these things to be made. They issued for combat rosaries to be made. But Pope Pius X, he made this indulgence attached to the crucifix. So if anybody was dying and they didn't have last rites or they didn't have a priest who would be able to hear their confession, they would simply carry this in their pocket and they would be able to kiss the crucifix, and they needed two things. They needed a contrite heart, and they needed to be willing to forgive everyone who's ever wronged them, and then ask God for forgiveness. And that prayer would grant them basically a confession. Like it would actually bring them the grace of a plenary indulgence, which is absolutely crazy. But from my understanding, it's basically like carrying a confession in your pocket. That's from what my reading and understanding of this thing means. So going back to it, but the indulgence, once it's made, it's always the case. So I'm not in war, I have to worry about getting shot, but I can die in a car accident, or I could die without having a priest available. But if I have one in my pocket, that's very nice. Okay, so ultimately. Yeah, we just always, for me, I'm always just concerned about being prepared, right? That is kind of the goal of our lives. Jesus says, watch. I will come like a thief in the night, and don't make sure I don't catch you off guard, because that's not a good thing, as we've discussed. The second thing that I want to talk about, and it kind of relates to the whole death thing. We're just going to get dark, I guess, for Mother's Day weekend for some reason. But the second thing is that when I was in seminary, I took a course over summer, and the professor was the best professor that I've ever listened to. Like every word that he spoke, I was just on the edge of my seat. I was like, whoa, this stuff is amazing. But one of the things he mentioned was there was a study done on near-death experiences that he read about. And he said that a lot of the times there would be people would have two perspectives simultaneously at the moment of their death. They would have God's perspective, and they would have everybody else's perspective of them at every moment of their lives. And I was thinking about this. I was like, well, that actually makes a lot of sense because Jesus says there's really two commandments: love God with all your with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, which is outrageously challenging, by the way. If you have ever attempted to live like the saints, every moment, everything I eat, every decision I make has to be for the good, for God. Like the amount of food, everything that I do has to be in line with God's commandments. And there's a lot of times, actually every single time, it's like, oh, I just want to do my own thing here. But anyways, then it'll be from everyone else's perspective, right? Because Jesus says that what you did to your neighbor, you did to me. Okay, so when we watch what's going to be happening, our impact on all of our neighbors, everybody, everything, wow, it's going to be really, I don't know about you, but I haven't lived perfectly, and I haven't treated my neighbor as I would like to be treated. I haven't, treated God with all my love from all my heart, mind, and soul. I've just fallen short a million times. And when my grandma, when she was on her deathbed, I actually mentioned this to her, and she hadn't been to confession in 50 years. And I was like, so just like grandma, just so that this is what people experience. Because she asked me, she's like, so what is death like? What has happened? So I explained it to her. She's like, whoa, I don't want to see that, And I was like, no, I don't think anyone does. But the beauty is the Catholic Church offers us confession, okay? So like I've mentioned in past videos, that when we go to confession, the Lord, we could have been 50 years of sinfulness, and he washes our souls. He tells St. Faustina, you could have a soul that is crimson red, so their soul is in the mind of an angel or of a man is just beyond repair, and God restores it in full, washes the soul completely white with the sacrifice. So then when we see it from that perspective, we're not going to notice the horror of the impact that we've had played out till the end of time. We're going to see the mercy of God, which comes in and covers every action that we've ever done. And it's just we'll be amazed at the beauty of God's mercy. So as opposed to being like, oh no, what'd I do? It's going to be like, oh, God is so good. God is so stinking good. And I've experienced that in my confession. Every time I walk out, I was like, oh, praise God, this is awesome. Or in my first confession, I literally walked out and I was dead spiritually, and I felt like I was alive. I am not kidding you. That was my experience. I literally felt like I was alive for the first time in 6-7 years. When I was a kid, I was always just like happy. I always kind of felt like I was full with life. But then as I started to get older, I started to turn away from the things that I knew I was supposed to be doing. And I just started to feel this emptiness, this void in my heart that I tried to fill with everything, anything that the world could get me. I would do it. And I was making it bigger. The emptiness was getting bigger. But when I found God in the confessional, when he found me, it was like, boom, I felt full for the first time. I felt this deep satisfaction. Okay, this is a weird example, but an eggshell without the yolk or without anything on inside. It was just like filled. I was like, whoa. I've been searching for this for a very long time. And ever since then, I was like, well, this is awesome. I'm just going to stay here then. And then I've just been living my life with God. But he does mention in the scriptures, he says, unless you are following my commandments, those who obey my commandments, my Father and I will make our abode in them. And so in order to get back on track, we go to confession and the Lord washes our souls and makes us a fit dwelling place for the King of the universe, right? So of course we'd have to be clean, in order to have such a guest. We would clean up our house, for the President of the United States if he came by. What would we do? What would we have to do for God? It'd be pretty nasty if we just left it as a disaster. So anyways, so the very last thing, trying to think. There was one last thing. It was on purgatory. So I just wanted to encourage you guys. So there's a woman on YouTube called Gloria Polo, and she has this profound testimony. She was struck by lightning, and she was judged in her whole experience. Do not avoid this. Don't avoid learning about the saints and what they say about purgatory and what they say about judgment and all this stuff. Yes. Is it scary? Absolutely. Is it intense? Yeah, you better believe it, because as what I just explained. But the reality is I would want to know what was going to be on the final exam for any class, especially the test, which is going to determine life or death, right? For eternity. And so we shouldn't be scared, right? Because God offers us outrageous opportunities to just receive His mercy, and so we don't have any reason to be afraid. But there are so many resources on what is purgatory like. Just go on Google, say "purgatory with the saints," and you'll find stories that'll blow you out of the water. And then you'll actually be like, okay, I got to start getting ready. But if we don't know this information, that's the most dangerous. That is the singular most dangerous thing, is because we just think everything's fine and that God is good. But which He is. But remember, He's perfect justice. He's perfect mercy, perfect justice. And whatever we don't pay now, we pay later. So you look at the story, this is the very last thing, look at the story of the man who is forgiven a great debt. So the story says a man was owed a large sum. It wasn't a large sum. It was 1,000,000 days' wages. That's how much this guy owed. And he begged the king, because the king was going to sell him into slavery and his family and everything. He said, please give me more time. I'll pay you back in full. No, he wouldn't. Nobody would be able to pay 1,000,000 days' wages. But the king felt sorry for him and he forgave the full debt. Okay. That servant went and then demanded payment from another servant and said that he grabbed him and started choking him, pay back what you owe. And he did not have mercy on the person who wronged him. And so the king found out about it, and he said that he had to pay until the very last cent was, had to pay back the full sum until the very last cent was paid. So God is perfect justice. He pays to the very last cent. If we know what that means, then we will take advantage of the thousands of opportunities that God gives us. Okay, I wish I could keep going, but we were just taking forever here. So God bless you. Happy Mother's Day. If you're a mother, you're awesome. And I appreciate all the sacrifices you make for your kids on a daily basis and for bringing them to church. Okay, that is amazing. So keep it up. All right, God bless you and have a great day. Bye.